Hello and welcome to episode 26 of Establish the Collection. I am Cody Main, joined as always by my co-host, Gary Hartman. Gary's feeling pretty good after the Houston trash stros
Oh, I like that.
were taken out in Game 6 of the World Series. Your Atlanta Braves, the collective, they close it out in Game 6. They get the job done. I haven't watched much baseball postseason action. Gary, how you feeling after Houston lost tonight?
Anytime you can see those Astros go out on their home field, it is beautiful. I loved watching Yuli Gurriel make the last out, his head down in the dugout. Mazel tov to the Atlanta Braves. I say mazel tov because two Jews now have World Series rings. Congratulations to Max Fried and Jock Peterson. And overall, just exciting stuff for Atlanta. I know those Atlanta fans have had a rough go of it since the Falcons game, obviously the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. So they deserve the title, and a lot of fun young players on Atlanta. So good for them. Congratulations to the Braves.
Well, why don't we just start there? The Atlanta Braves, they're World Series champions now. The baseball season has wrapped up as we're finally we're underway in the NBA. NFL season is halfway through, I guess, kind of ish. Now that we've got an extra game on the schedule, it's halfway through the season, if you will. What should we take away from the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series, and any interesting hobby names we should keep our eyes on over the next weeks, months, and beyond?
Yeah, so actually, a lot of interesting takeaways here, and some of these names we've spoken about a little bit on this podcast, but we could give them more time, time of day right now. Obviously, I think actually the biggest storyline of all of this is that they did it without Ronald Acuna, right? Who is arguably the best young player in baseball, right up there in that big three we spoke about before the season, with right up there, Fernando Tatis and Vlad Jr. And he was hurt. He got hurt in the middle of the season. We talked about it when it happened on the show, buying strategies for Acuna, selling strategies for Acuna, all that. Meanwhile, Atlanta's just sitting there making their run quietly, and in the season with 88 wins and didn't matter to them. They just dominated the postseason, walked right through. And that's because they had a great roster. They made a fantastic move at the deadline, scooping up who is now World Series MVP, Jorge Soler from the Kansas City Royals. That really helped carry them. But I think the most important name here is Freddie Freeman. And Freddie Freeman, who I think locked himself into the Hall of Fame probably with this win. He has been a generational first baseman for the better part of a decade. He was out of that 2011 Topps rookie class. So we are literally 10 years of him being, pretty much an elite first baseman, both defensive and hitting first baseman. The city of Atlanta loves him. I mentioned kind of tongue in cheek in our last episode how he just hasn't had the hobby love that I think he should for kind of the player he's been throughout his career. But that's just kind of me comparing him to some of the other, of his peers. If you really look, I mean, there's some of that 2011 top stuff there. That was the year of the diamond anniversary tops. You can get some really fun foils and parallels of him. That stuff sells really well. But his just base Topps 2011 rookie card is a pop of $9.94. It's up 15% in the last 2 weeks while they started making this run, which you're happy to see. But it's still only a $235 card at a pop under $1,000. I think that has plenty of room to grow as this kind of legacy defining win solidifies for somebody like Freddie Freeman, who is by far the face of that team in that franchise. So I think he's just a much safer buy now as an investment piece. Freddie Freeman, that's kind of where I look at him.
I mean, this team, theoretically, they get Ronald Acuna back next year at some point coming off the injury. I can't imagine they're any worse than they were this year. No. So certainly going to be some short-term and long-term perspective for a guy like Freddie Freeman, who is, as you mentioned, may have solidified himself as a Hall of Famer, going to be playing in meaningful games, playing for more World Series, hopefully in the years to come with Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies and all these young guys that you mentioned. I mean, it's just a great card. It's a paper card that you mentioned, but $235 for a pop under $1,000 for one of the game's best players. Don't think you can go wrong there.
No, exactly. And, just to circle back to Acuna quickly, I think the best comparison point for something like this, where his team, just won the World Series without their best player, was Bryce Harper having the Nationals won the year after he left a couple of years ago. Now, obviously, the difference here is Acuna's still on the team. He's still young. He's not in danger of leaving like Harper had just done. If you're a Bill Simmons listener, I don't know if we have the Ewing theory going on here where the team immediately gets better after the player stops listening. I'm not willing to subscribe to any of that with Acuna. If anything, I think, hey, this Braves team has momentum. They have a great young roster, and they're getting a top 5 player in baseball back next year. Acuna is still a plenty safe investment, if you ask me. He was in the dugout celebrating with his teammates. You're happy to see it. So, this Braves team's they're going to be reckoned with for years to come here because, we mentioned Freeman, we mentioned Acuna, but they got a bunch of young guys. I briefly mentioned Soler. I think he's an interesting name. He's, I think, late 20s at this point, but he's a 2-time World Series champ now because he was on the 2016 Cubs team. He led the AL in home runs back in 2019. Now he's a World Series MVP. So, bad job on me for not bringing him up earlier, but just probably, all that stuff. He's a power hitter now, multiple-time World Series champion. That's the kind of stuff that does ultimately draw some hobby love. So, he's a 40 home run plus type power guy. He's at a 2015 Topps, 2012 Bowman. That stuff's held in check. I was just taking a look. There's some auctions ending over the next 24 hours. I'm sure it's going to hit obviously some new highs there, but he's just a name to keep in mind for sure because power hitting, World Series MVP at this point for Soler.
Yeah, I want to circle back to Acuna, and I agree with your Soler point, but I want to circle back to Acuna because when we've talked baseball, which has been pretty infrequent over the course of the last couple of months, but when we have talked baseball, we've mentioned Acuna's name. We talked baseball last week with Noah from I Got It. So check out that episode if you guys haven't yet. I Got It's got an amazing product that they've recently launched for NFTs surrounding some of these high-end baseball players, Vlad and Tatis and Acuna and these guys. But we mentioned there his card outlook and what it would do coming off the injury. Over the last 6 months, it is down 39%, but it's been relatively flat over the last 3 months. His Bowman Chrome that's got a pop count of 6,466 is sitting right around $275, $280 right now. I mean, are we going to see that price drop any more? And what type of Acuna cards are you looking at if you are buying in the offseason before he returns from injury?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that price drop too much more. I mean, I think at this point we have a pretty big sample size since that injury where it's kind of leveled off now. And I think it's a fine buy as long as it's down because, could it go down a little bit more if you hear he suffers a setback in his rehab or something like that? Maybe he's not ready for opening day. Yeah, stuff like that could happen. It might dip a little bit, but I think you'll be comfortable buying in at the price that it's at right now. And, the other thing about that is I don't think that pop is going to go up too much more. Now, obviously it's still a modern card with you said it was in the 6,000s, the 2017 Bowman Chrome, just the base.
Yep.
But I don't see that card kind of really, I mean, maybe there's some still orders coming back with that card in, but I think it's going to be settling in around that 6,000 to 8,000 range in the pop count. So I think that's a fine number for a guy that has, Mike Trout upside as far as, hobby love and production on the field. So I'm fine buying Acuna through this offseason for sure.
All right. Anyone else on the Braves we need to talk about, or can we, on the Astros side, the losing side, can we completely ignore the Houston Astros at this point?
Yeah. Oh no, the Astros get none of our love today. We're not talking about them. But I mentioned Ozzie Albies on the show a couple weeks ago, and I was loving his Topps paper and Topps Chrome because they were like $20 and $40 cards, which is out of 2018 Topps. That guy again. Stud young kid, switch hitting second baseman who's going to be a part of this Braves core for a long time now. And if you can still scoop that card up for $30 to $40, that Topps Chrome, I love that card still. I bought a couple of them actually, at the beginning of this playoff run, as I had mentioned. So that's somebody that I think is good. And credit where credit is due to former number 1 overall prospect Dansby Swanson. We spoke about him really early on in this show as an example of just kind of the way the baseball market moves. And if you were one of those people that bought in way, after kind of people wrote him off as, just being an everyday player, but not kind of that elite prospect. Really good season for Atlanta. He hit the game tying home run in Game 4, really to put Atlanta on the back. He's kind of won over the hearts of the Braves fan base. He's from right outside Atlanta, so I think he's really found a home here. And as a former top prospect, shortstop, good-looking kid, I think that's a guy whose career is kind of really heading in the right direction. So Swanson stuff still compared to when it really came out in that 2015 Bowman, when he was getting all the hype, you had to pay up at that time. I think you could still grab that at an affordable price, and he's now a World Series champion, and I think has a home there in Atlanta as the everyday shortstop for a while.
All right, guys, ignore the Astros. Keep an eye on Swanson, Albies, Acuna, Soler, Freddie Freeman, all these big names.
Austin Riley as well. Austin Riley was the rookie from last year. Big, great, had a great overall season. He's got a bright future too. So a lot of big names.
That is enough baseball because, as I mentioned, we're about halfway through the NFL season. NBA season is kicking off. I think we've got 2 weeks or so under our belt. Gary knows much better about that.
2 weeks tonight, Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago.
grinding his face off, trying to get projections right, doing top plays, doing live shows. If you guys aren't subscribed to the Establish the Run NBA product, incredible product. I'm not in a legal sports betting state, but I know you guys are crushing it with props. I know you guys are crushing it with DFS. I've been trying to get my single entry lineup in every night. Really appreciating the product. But before we get into more NBA talk, we've got some victory laps to take, Gary.
Hell yeah.
Some damn fine victory laps to take. I'm going to let you take the floor here with our guy, RJ Barrett. Why should we be excited about RJ at this point?
Well, one, Rowan Barrett Jr. Of the New York Knickerbockers is taking a third-year leap, folks. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, we may only be 7 games into the season, yada, yada, yada. I don't give a crap.
No. Sample sizes be damned. Yeah, we are taking this victory lap on RJ
you know why
Barrett.
they be damned? Because go watch the entire second half of last year when he became a 40% three-point shooter and became an all-around good team player and a fantastic defender. The man is absolutely crushing the last couple games. 2 games ago against New Orleans, he had 35 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, something like that, and just completely dominated the second half. Looked like a star. Is scoring around the rim this year, guys. That was always the trouble with him. Even last year when he got his 3-point efficiency up, he was having trouble finishing around the rim. That looks to be what he improved upon this offseason, alongside with his defensive prowess, which was already good and is becoming elite. The Knicks are putting him on their opposing stars night in, night out. He shut down Jason Tatum when Boston was in there, the home opener. He's just really becoming a two-way star. He's averaging 18. What is he averaging right now? So I was looking at his per 36 numbers there. He's got, 18 points a game.
Yep.
18.6 points a game right now. Almost 6 rebounds, 3 assists. But, shooting 43% from 3 right now and over 51% from the field. And his usage, Cody and I were just talking off air, his usage hasn't even gone really up yet compared to last year. So I think, but his efficiency is off the charts. Again, we have to keep in mind the guy just had his first sip of alcohol this offseason. So he's only 21 years old. Just absolutely crushing it. How Cody and I feel about RJ, but I just want to say, when you watch the Knicks, just keep an eye on RJ, man. There's knock on wood, barring injury or something like that. There's no reason to think that this third-year leap won't keep up. So just super pumped about RJ Barrett.
Yeah, I think there's still so much upside, so much upside left on RJ. I think he can. I mean, he's obviously got one of the bigger ceilings for a guy that's 21 years old right now. His silver PSA 10 is up about 15% over the last 3 months, but we've seen that stuff settle in recently. So I think that is a pretty good price to grab on one RJ Barrett. Very excited about this guy. As you mentioned, the usage rate hasn't even gone up this year. It's in fact down from last year. So I think as this guy has continuously made a larger point of the Knicks offense, as he continues to grow and age and become more mature, man, I think we really hit this one out of the park on RJ.
Yeah, and check out the at Establish the Collection Instagram. After he put up that 35-point performance, I put a couple of my RJ PC cards up on there, just a handful in one little montage there, just to celebrate our boy. So at Establish the Collection on Instagram. But yeah, RJ's really pumping, really getting going here, and we're really excited about that. Knicks are 5-2, so I'm really happy to have that. Baseball's behind us. It's all football and basketball ahead, and UFC's hot right now too, Cody, isn't it?
Oh baby. Oh baby, are we done with RJ? Because I can go
RJ, let's go. RJ, here's to RJ. But let's give a round of applause to our boy Cody Main, who's been calling this for months. Cody, what happened this past weekend?
My boy, one Khamzat Chimaev, went out and absolutely dominated in the ring, in the octagon. But that wasn't even the most exciting thing for me. For anyone that understands the UFC, for anyone that's bet on the UFC, for anybody that's bought UFC cards in the past, if you know Conor McGregor, if you know any of these names, you know that personality matters. You know that stardom matters. You know that being a king in this sport matters. And that is exactly what Khamzat Chimaev went out and did on Saturday when he dismantled Li Jingliang, as I said he would 3 months ago.
Literally 3 months ago.
Literally 3 months ago. Episode 14, I think I said off air that I was mentioning that I was buying this guy. And the only regret that I have is that I didn't buy enough, because this dude is an absolute star in the making. And I'm not sure he's ever going to lose again. I don't know what to say at this point. I think he was a minus 350 favorite when we talked about him. Some super early lines. He got steamed to minus 600 before the fight. Was very obvious he was going to win. I don't think there were anyone out there that was saying that Khamzat was going to lose. But again, as I mentioned, you've got to be a star in this sport. You can't just go out and win. Even someone like Khabib, the second biggest name probably in the hobby behind Conor from a UFC perspective, you have to have some personality, or you just simply have to be the greatest. And I think that there is some possibility. Obviously, it's still very early. He's only had 4 UFC fights, 10-0 in his professional career. I still think it's very early, but I think there is some case to be made that this guy is a Khabib level fighter. As I mentioned on Twitter, he's a Khabib level fighter with a Conor McGregor level personality. And if you have that combination added to the fact that this is the first year Prism product for a rookie, the premier rookie in this class, I think that this stuff just has so much room to grow. I think that we're already seeing, as hard as it is to get your hands on these cards, I think that we're already seeing that the Prism stuff at least was fairly short printed. I don't think they went nuts with the print runs on the Prism stuff. Now, the Select and the Chronicles that's come out since then, you could make the case you're seeing more of those auctions go fairly cheap, obviously lower end products. Some of that stuff you can make the case that maybe they got a little bit carried away as those products came out after the fact and saw the steam on some of this UFC love. But man, this short printed parallel Prism serial numbered colored refractor stuff, I'm trying to gobble up as much of that as I can right now. So as I mentioned, Khamzat is 4-0 in his UFC career. He has taken 1 strike. He's absorbed 1 significant strike in 4 fights. He's finished all 4 of his fights, 3 of them in the first round, 1 of them in the second round. I don't know what more there is to say from a actual fighting perspective for this guy. That was Li Jingliang was the number 11th ranked welterweight. I think Khamzat's going to fight again very soon, within like the next 45 days probably. And I think he's going to dismantle that guy. We'll talk about that in a second. And then I think from there, it's going to be these big named main event type fights with guys like Nate Diaz, guys like Jorge Masvidal.
I'm seeing the Nate Diaz love.
Yeah. Maybe even a shot against Colby Covington to, become kind of the number 1 contender, if assuming, and we've got another big fight this weekend between Usman and Colby Covington. Assuming Usman takes care of business, which I expect him to, maybe you have Khamzat fighting against Colby Covington to kind of, become the de facto number 1 contender in the division. And then from there, it's going to be title fights. And, I would imagine that Usman is a favorite against Khamzat. Obviously, he probably should be, but he is live to win that fight. And once he does, if he does, then it's he's got the title at 170. Maybe he moves up to 185. Maybe he's got double title. I mean, the ceiling on this guy from a fighting perspective is crazy. But getting back to the larger point on why the hobby love went where it did after that fight is the personality is matching what he's doing in the octagon. That was one of the concerns that I had when I was investing so heavily this summer was he's kind of just this cold-blooded killer, like we've seen fighters like Khabib be, like we've seen other guys in the past be. But man, some of those press conferences that we saw before the fight, some of those press conferences that we saw after the fight, I posted a bunch of them on Twitter. If you haven't seen them yet, but he's starting to develop a little bit of a personality, and to me, it seems pretty clear that he's either being coached by people in his camp, or he's being coached and prepped from people within the UFC to be kind of the next king, next face of the UFC. So I'm very excited about one Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I think you covered all the bases. I was going to ask you what's next for him. I'm seeing this Nate Diaz rumors. I know there's going to be big fights in his future, and the sky is the limit. And great advice to listeners. I hope you all listen to Cody about Khamzat. Khamzat,
you nailed it. I mean, you're better than I am. The funny thing is, when we first talked about him, I butchered his name so bad that when we ran the clip on socials, I had to clip out me butchering his name the first time.
We don't have receipts on that. Oh, God.
But no, I mentioned the fight. So Neil Magny, I think, is the 7th or 8th ranked fighter in the welterweight division, and he had a bout scheduled for December 18th. And his fighter had to drop out. His opponent had to drop out due to injury. So Neil Magny called out Khamzat in probably the most respectful way possible, saying, he's legit. He's the real deal. I want to get a shot against this guy. So you have a number 6, number 7, whatever he is, ranked fighter calling out someone who is, 4 fights into his UFC career and basically saying, hey, he's legit, he's the real deal. I know that things may not end well for me, but I want to give this kid a shot. So I think Khamzat will either end up fighting him, or as you mentioned, Nate Diaz, but I think the next fight is coming soon. I mean, usually you don't see these turnarounds this quickly for UFC fighters. Usually there's quite a layoff in another camp, and maybe they fight a couple times per year. But the fact that he's not absorbing any damage really is going to allow him to fight as much as he wants. And I have very few questions about what he's capable of doing in the octagon at this point. Now it just becomes, is he going to reach that next cultural icon level of someone like Khabib, someone like Conor McGregor, and will all the Prism stuff that I've been buying and all the Prism stuff that I'm suggesting you guys go out and buy, will it kind of reach that next echelon of truly iconic stuff?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm excited to watch his career grow now as well. And, he's got an impressionable face. He kind of looks like a distorted Khabib a little bit, He's got the same beard, and he leaves a mark, literally.
Yeah. He's pretty unforgettable. If you guys haven't watched any of his press conferences, if you're kind of just a fringe UFC fan, because we've been talking about it on the podcast, I recommend just going and checking out a few of his podcasts. Or a few of his press conferences. He's a pretty funny guy, has obviously some dry humor as he's trying to kind of translate all of his insights and his thoughts into English. And he's just, I don't know what other way to put it. He's just kind of a cold-blooded killer, and that's his personality, and that's the way it comes across. But he's a very, very, very interesting fighter.
Nice, man. Good work there. That's it for our victory lap, as we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah, Gary, this is a forward-thinking show, right? This is a forward-thinking show. We're not here to gloat. We're not here to talk about the money that we've made and the cards that we're holding in our collection. So with that said, why don't we move on to some week 8 takeaways, some week 8 thoughts in the NFL, because we skipped last week. A lot has happened since then. I think we're finally seeing some separation in the MVP race. We're finally seeing some separation in the Super Bowl race. Patrick Mahomes kind of looks like a pumpkin. I don't know what to make of the Chiefs situation. Talk to me about the NFL hobby as we're now 8 weeks through the NFL season.
Yeah, what you mean? Things are weird where Mike White is the best quarterback in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes is one of the worst right now, and Mike White is the biggest riser in the hobby, and Patrick Mahomes is the biggest loser. What is going on? It's fun, man. Football's fun, and tomorrow night we have a fantastic Thursday night game featuring Mike White. And what could go wrong? No, man, it's I think as a whole, the football card market seems pretty strong to me still. As you mentioned, I think besides the Chiefs kind of just completely laying eggs so far this season, most of the big dogs, Brady, Rodgers, Josh Allen, most of the big quarterbacks and big dogs are performing up to standards, which you like to see. No more undefeated teams in the NFL, right? The Cardinals took their first L on last Thursday night against Green Bay. Maybe slightly putting an imprint on the Kyler MVP case, but he's still, having himself a great season. Just some interesting stuff going all around. And as you mentioned, we're not really halfway through because we have 18 weeks, or only 8. So we're like 40 something +% of the way through the season. So it's a lot of stories still to be written, but it's been a fun NFL season so far.
I think we're kind of at that point in the NFL season, right, where if you're, making bets via sports card purchases, via, whether it be fractional or whether it be through eBay markets, things of that nature, you're kind of deciding whether you're making a long-term play on a guy that maybe started the season off slow, maybe a guy that's been down, maybe a guy that was even out with injury, or you're making a bet short-term on a guy that you think could potentially win the MVP and you're flipping at the end of the season, something like that. Any interesting names that stand out to you, whether it be on the short or long-term front of guys that you're trying to buy right now at this point, almost halfway through the NFL season?
Yeah, if I can afford it, I'm buying Mahomes up right now.
Love it. I love that.
Just because, listen, I get the Chiefs are it's disappointing what's happening with the Chiefs right now. There's no doubt about it. Guys, it's hard to have sustained greatness in the NFL. It really is. I mean, they should have made the Super Bowl 3 years in a row if there wasn't a D Ford jumping off sides, right, or whatever. And, that's hard to do. Clearly, the NFL's figured them out a little bit. Their offensive line still, the fixed offensive line that was supposed to be fixed really hasn't been, right? And their defense can't stop a leak. And Mahomes has not helped matters, right? He's turning the ball over at a much higher rate than we've ever seen him do so before. But to me, we know the talent is unquestioned. I mean, the MVP is already there. The Super Bowl ring's already there. He will be back at those great standards at some point. And even if he doesn't, even if he's Dan Marino for the rest of his career and he never wins another Super Bowl, he's still going to end up finishing as a top like 7, 8 quarterback of all time, as long as he doesn't get hurt. So like to me, he's down. Just looking at, I just threw up his optic 2017 rated rookie. Still $1,200 card as a PSA 10, but that's down. Over the last month, 24 freaking percent. Like if you can afford some of this stuff, I don't know how long this Chiefs bleeding is going to happen. It's almost impossible to predict. They were able to beat my Giants last night. Not surprising. Jason Garrett's terrible. But I think it's as safe as a buy if you can afford it as there is for somebody that's going to be dipping this much. So it's obvious play to me. I'm doing a little bit, I can't be spending too much money, tying up too much money right now in a card that I would consider a long-term play, because obviously that is what it is. But where I can fit in, I get in where I fit in with Mahomes right now for sure.
Yeah, 24% on his optic. His, the kind of the flagship card is 2017 Prism, which obviously, comes from that class where the base card was the silver cards. Just has a pop of 880. Guys, like if that card has a pop of 880 right now, I don't see it going much higher, even as PSA works through this backlog. Probably a sub 1,000 pop. For the long run, that card is also down 24% over the last 6 months. So yeah, as you mentioned, if you have the funds, and this card is a $7,000 card, and this is maybe where you get into the fractional side of things, this thing is down 25% over the last 6 months. This is probably the best quarterback that we have ever seen, probably the best quarterback that we saw over the last 2 years for sure. And now we have a 7-8 game sample of him not being so great and this offense not being so great. Maybe they don't figure it out this year, but I'm kind of betting on Mahomes. I'm betting on Tyreek Hill. I'm betting on Andy Reid. I'm betting on this front office to kind of figure this thing out long term. And maybe they take some lumps over the next couple of months still. Maybe they don't get right. Maybe they don't even make the playoffs. But if you want to bet long term, and that's kind of where we're at in this point of the season, where we're trying to just make some bets and pick off some players that have sunk in value that we still believe in, then that's definitely a guy that I would love to buy up right now.
And that's why now is such an interesting time to buy, because they're 4-4. They're they're 500. They did not look impressive in this last win against the Giants.
No,
but you don't know when they might just turn it on, and it could never happen, right? Like I could be giving you bad advice, and they could keep slipping, and they could be 4-7, and that was the right time to buy when he's down 35-40%. But again, Cody and I have been saying this from the start. We're not in the business of trying to pinpoint the bottoms. I think now is a very strong time to buy Patrick Mahomes. Like I don't, and guys know me probably if you've been listening to this podcast for a while. I don't definitively sit here and say buy right now. I'm pretty much at the point with Mahomes that I think I could say that I feel very comfortable buying him right now.
What about on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, as it looks like the Buffalo Bills are for real on both sides of the ball? You've got Josh Allen, who is now, prohibitive favorite, if you will, for NFL MVP, assuming they take care of business to close out the season. I would imagine that he is the NFL's MVP. I think they've got a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl after making an AFC championship game last year. His cards haven't grown much recently. He's up about 9% over the last 90 days on his Prism base stuff that's got a pop count of about 1,200, sitting right around $930. If people are holding if people are holding Josh Allen, if people have fractional shares of Josh Allen cards, what are we doing with Josh Allen at this point?
I'm holding until we get a little bit further into the season at the very least. I'm comfortable if you're holding on long term, because I've talked about this in the past as well. I'm a believer in Josh Allen for sure, but I think you're going to have more prime selling windows than you do right now. As you said, he's kind of stayed a little bit stagnant over the last couple of months. If he remains in this MVP race, if the Bills remain a Super Bowl contender, we're beginning of November right now. I think you're going to see that January time look like a really good time to possibly look to offload some of your Josh Allen, if that's what you're looking to do. Again, I have no problem holding as well, but if you need the funds, if you're trying to maximize short-term, mid-term profit on somebody in maybe the pinnacle peak of their career, potentially, at the helm of a number one seed or whatever it may be. We saw this happen with Aaron Rodgers last year when he kind of came into focus that he was going to win MVP. I don't know if that's going to happen with Josh Allen, but in that kind of January timeframe where he saw some peaks. So I think that's kind of where you're looking for Josh Allen if you are going to sell this season.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that based off of their remaining schedule, based off of the way that team looks selling right now in November, kind of as they're going to peak towards the latter part of the season and potentially push for a Super Bowl, seems unwise to sell at this point. I think you're going to, like you said, you're going to have better windows later on this season. Shifting from some of these more established guys, some of these guys that we have a little bit more data on, a couple of guys coming off a couple of rough weeks. What about some of these rookies from last year's class with Justin Herbert coming off 2 straight losses, I believe, lost last week against the Patriots at home. And then, man, your guy and mine, Joe Burrow, losing to future face of the NFL, Mike White, the New York Jets. Not great, as Gary flashes a blue prism scope out of 99.
Yeah, 4 out of 99.
Just a beautiful card.
I texted Cody this morning. I have no idea I had this. I was going through a box of football, and I have this Mike White prism card, which I brought out, obviously, because I got to make some moves on it right now.
You know what? This just brings up a larger point. Never sell, because there's always going to be a time when Mike White is the starting quarterback of the New York Jets, and he knocks off Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're going to be able to sell it for 10x or 100x, whatever you would have been able to sell it for.
Yeah,
when you pulled it. So.
Let's take both sides of that real quick, though. For Burrow, I'm still bullish on him this season. I think the Bengals, we have a pretty big enough sample size at this point to know that they're at least not playing around from a competitive standpoint. You know, I don't know if they're going to be leading the AFC North. I guess I think they're in second now behind Baltimore after that loss, but I think they'll be around that wild card discussion at the very least. I think they went into MetLife this past weekend and completely just overthought their opponent. We're probably looking ahead in the schedule, and then Mike White also happened. So you had all those things up where Mike White, became John Elway for a minute, and that they just play down to their competition. So I'm not too worried about that. Every quarterback's allowed a bad loss here or there. Very encouraged to see the way Burrow had really been starting to throw the ball, get his feet back underneath him over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, having Jamar Chase, his college buddy, and the clear rookie of the year favorite at this point helps. You guys know I was buying a little bit of Burrow in the offseason. I'm still waiting for those right windows to sell some of that stuff this season. But again, he's somebody that I feel pretty good about holding on to as well. So not too concerned there. Mike White's an interesting test case in the hobby, right? So, yes. He was out of this 2018 Prism class. You could see there. I don't know. He was undrafted. When was he drafted? He drafted like 5th round or something like that. I don't even have that in front of me. Yeah, 5th round. I'm reading the back of the card. 5th round in 2018. And was obviously drafted by Dallas. Finds his way to be the New York Jets backup and gets called up to the big stage and looks a million times better than Zach Wilson ever did.
Yep.
And I mean, it was no joke. This guy was making all the throws with freaking Denzel Mims and Braxton Berrios. A lot of checks downs to Michael Carter, who's a good little player himself, but it's really, really, really impressive stuff. 400 yards. He was the number 1 quarterback on the fantasy slate, number 1 quarterback on the entire slate. And let's see how real it was, because tomorrow night he's got a game against Indy. That's in Indy, Cody? Is that
in Indy? They're 10.5 point dogs. I'm halfway through writing this game up. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You, as someone who's holding a legitimately nice Mike White card,
solid Mike White card here.
Yeah, out of 99, out of that 2018 Prism class, you're going to have an interesting window here for yourself, whether you throw that thing up, for auction, whether you throw that thing up for buy it now. But I imagine if they come out, and even if they cover 10.5 point spread and he looks okay again, plays well, hell, if they go out and win and beat Indy on the road and Mike White's 2-0, man, that thing could sell for something absurd. And we don't talk about it enough because it's kind of just this unwritten code of buying and selling and flipping in the hobby. But like, you're just hoping to sell that card to someone who thinks they can flip it for even more, right? In most cases.
Yeah, for the most part, right? There's always going to be like this little thing in the back of your head saying like, can this guy beat Tom Brady? Like, was everyone just missing on him? And should I hold this card? Am I going to regret it in 20 years? But like, that's a 0.01% chance. And in all likelihood, at this point, just because I found it today and they're playing on Thursday night, I'm just going to wait and see how tomorrow plays out. Like, what am I going to lose? $40 of value if he lays an egg? Like, at the very least, I'm going to make way more on this card even after tomorrow than I would have, 9 days ago. Right. So it's like, yes, that's pretty much what you're doing when you realize you have a card like that. If if he really came out and just like was incredible, like as you said, got to win, not another 400 yards. I guess I would think a little bit longer about when I'm selling that card, but
sure.
In all likelihood, I'm getting that card up sometime after, or maybe during the game tomorrow night. Honestly, we'll see how things are going.
Or we spent way more time on Mike White than I thought we would.
But it is an interesting case. It is.
No, you're right. And these opportunities are going to present themselves in the NFL. They're going to present themselves in the NBA with names that we may have pulled from being involved in breaks or ripping our own wax that we're not necessarily sure what to do with, but these names are going to pop up every once in a while.
Yeah, like preseason Taylor Horton Tucker and our early bubble bowl. These things happen in the NBA all the time.
Exactly right. Any other names you want to mention before we kick it over to the NBA?
No, I just think it's interesting to start really monitoring these rookie quarterbacks because, guys, none of them have popped, right? Like literally no one. Trevor Lawrence had a decent game here. Zach Wilson had that one solid game. Justin Fields finally just had an okay game. But, I think for now, as these products start to finally roll out a little bit, you can get some of these guys in break rooms at affordable prices. Panini Absolute just came out, which is not a very good product, but what Panini likes to do with some of these products is sprinkle in some of the biggest chase cards. So you want to go buy the box. So like a sucker like me would go spend $400 on a Panini Absolute box just so you can get yourselves a hand on a Kaboom, right? So this is Daniel Jones's Kaboom from 2 years ago and a PSA 10.
Those cards are so sick.
They're so sick.
Yeah, and they are.
So I was actually buying up some Bears Absolute stuff in break rooms because the Bears, for whatever reason, were just like the cheapest of these 5 teams and available. And I was like, let me just do it. If I hit a Justin Fields Kaboom, awesome. I did not hit one, but the thesis remains. While none of these guys have really broken out, is you're going to be able to get in on some of these products for a cheaper price point until some of them do. And one of these guys is going to hit. Not all 5 of them are going to be busts.
Sure.
And probably multiple will. So, Mac Jones looks okay. So take it for what it is.
It is an interesting class to look at, and I'm very excited to get my hands on some of this product, and hopefully some of that comes out soon. As we mentioned a few episodes back, we're going to have NFL Dappers products, so we're hopefully going to have some of that. Hopefully by the end of the year. I think that's been pretty mum on what to expect from them as well. But as you mentioned, Absolute coming out, hopefully Prism and Mosaic and some of the higher end stuff is on the horizon for us as well. But let's transition to where you're spending a majority of your time this season right now. You're deep in the NBA streets, as I mentioned off the front, killing it for anyone that's subscribing to the DFS and the props product. Highly recommend that if you guys haven't checked that out yet. Where do you want to start with the NBA? Because it's been a wild start to the basketball season. Anywhere that you want to kick things off with?
Where should we start? Let's start with rookies. I think that's a fun place to start because we haven't had any 21-22 products yet, with the exception of like some collegiate stuff, which that it looks like it's going to be that way for a while. Just to sidebar real quick while we kind of weave into the product talk, but it's crazy the release calendar right now. I mean, we are still getting 2021 new releases on a pretty regular basis. I think they just announced that Mosaic 2021 isn't coming out till December 1st. We still have Panini 1-1 after that sometime in December. Flawless hasn't been announced yet. So we're going to hit 2022 and we're still getting last year's like LaMelo Balls type rookie stuff. Who knows when we're going to get this 21-22 stuff. NFTs seem to be on the horizon for that, but not the physical product. So I think it's worth, if you're an NBA collector, you really got to watch which rookies are doing well, because we're going to get half season, 3/4 of a season sample size before some of their flagship rookies start coming out, which is a different way to invest. So for me, and just for anyone, the 2 biggest names so far have been very clearly Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes. So actually number 3 and number 4 overall picks, Evan Mobley, kind of a power forward center for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Scotty Barnes, kind of you could call him like a 2 through 4 for the Raptors. Really was NBA ready right off the bat. Very, very impressive starts to their seasons. Definitely guys that I'm going to be looking to invest in when the cards come out. Number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham, has not played much yet. Just played his second NBA game tonight to not much avail. I'm actually curious how many minutes he played, because we were projecting him for like 22 or so, but he only scored 6 points. And you expect him to get going there, but it looks like overall a solid batch of rookies so far. So I'm really just excited to see how those guys progress and what their cards look like when they do hit the streets finally.
Yeah, this class seems pretty deep. Again, I haven't gotten super deep as I'm mostly focusing right now on NFL, but keeping up with your guys' content. keeping up with Gallagher's matchups column. I fully agree with you on your assessment of Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley, two guys that seem pro ready. Looking at the odds right now, Scotty Barnes is plus 400 for Rookie of the Year. Evan Mobley plus 550. I think those are pretty good odds on two guys that seem very likely to win the award. And we are going to have product coming out soon in some form or fashion. It appears that Top Shot Series 3 is ready to roll. It looks like that is going to be coming out, at least from a base perspective, on Thursday, November 4th. So depending on when you guys are listening to this episode, hopefully you've had a chance to get your hands on some of that product. And then for the first time ever, you mentioned it, Panini, they don't have the physical product ready yet, but they will debut their first major collectible line on their blockchain platform as NFTs arrive before the physical cards. So I've had a chance to look at those a little bit. It looks like, your standard Prism product, a few design changes from last year, but your first opportunity to get your hands on Panini's Prism product is going to be through their NFT line. So it looks like that is going to launch tomorrow. This may not be out in time for you guys to have listened to that, but would recommend keeping an eye on how that drop goes. If there's going to be a shift from Panini's physical line to their NFT line, more focus on their NFTs, maybe there's some growth there.
Ready? I was going to say, you ready for conspiracy, Gary?
Go for it.
I want to hear it. I very much wonder if Panini schedule this NFT release to go right in time with Top Shot Series 3, right?
Oh, baby.
I don't think that they wanted the first pro uniform stuff of these rookie moments or NFTs or cards, whatever you want to say, to be coming from Top Shot. I think they look at them as a threat for sure, which they are, in a lot of different ways. And, I know for me, looking to get my hands on some of the stuff of like Evan Mobley or Scotty Barnes or Jalen Green or whatever, that I would be turning to Top Shot before I turn to the the Panini NFT. So I don't know what kind of rookies we're expecting out of Series 3 right off the bat, the general packs, but I'm excited about it because, Panini, obviously backlogged with getting any real product out at this point for physical cards. So I'm excited to look for Top Shot Series 3. And I think Panini's kind of shuffling over there, thinking, what could we do? We're going to throw out these Topps. Sorry, I keep saying Topps. These Panini NFT Prism cards that look just like last year's cards. And I'm not excited about it at all personally. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, just from an overall aesthetic and feel from what we get from the Panini product, it does feel a lot like last year's product overall. And I know that the NFT cards are meant to match the physical cards, but not much design change from that perspective, which isn't very exciting, unfortunately. As far as Top Shot goes, though, I am very excited. We've talked about it in the past that we're both very excited for these kind of digital moments. The digital highlights are very exciting. Are you ready for me to read off to you the rookie moments that will be available in the first Series 3 base set drop on November 4th?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, ready? Drum roll. Davion Mitchell, Sacramento Kings. Great prospect. Love that. He's I think lit it up to higher than anyone expected of him to start. I know he's been a defensive menace.
He's been solid. Sacramento's used him to close games a lot of times. They've done 3-guard rotations with Halliburton and Fox, so they got big plans for him. He's a good little player.
I'm going to save the best for last. We're going to go to one Josh Christopher, Houston Rockets. Had an exciting rookie draft class, the Rockets, that we were both excited about. Alperen Şengün, Jalen Green, Josh Christopher was a part of that. Exciting young prospect, number 24 overall selection of last year's draft class. I think there's some upside there. There's some upside.
Was good in preseason for sure. People were excited.
For sure. Moses Moody. We all remember Kendrick Perkins struggling with Moses Moody's name on draft night, Golden State Warriors. There hasn't been much opportunity for one Moses Moody, has there? No,
not yet. But you never I don't doubt that Warrior system. Look what they've made Jordan Poole into, and Jordan Poole also made Jordan Poole into him. But you know what I mean. They have a good talent, evaluation system and a good talent development system. So
I'm gonna whisper this next guy because I'm a closet Duke Blue Devils fan.
Get the hell out of here. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm as a Maryland Terrapin, I can't say I'm happy about that. Coach.
I know. That's why I have to whisper that. Jalen Johnson, Atlanta Hawks, is in this set.
Yep. Plenty of upside there.
Two big names coming up next. Jalen Suggs, Orlando Magic. Are we still excited about Jalen Suggs at this point?
Yeah, we're still excited. Jalen Suggs right now, if like NBA cards are coming out, would be compared to like Trey Lance or something, right? Like just a little bit disappointing. Hasn't hit the, looks a little bit small out there. Maybe not ready for the game, but you try going to play point guard for the Orlando Magic and see how that goes for you. So I'm still bullish on Suggs long term. I'm a little bit disappointed to see how slow the game looks for him so far to his NBA career, but it's not easy being a rookie in the NBA, getting asked a lot of you. So I think Suggs could be all right still.
And saving the best for last, the guy you just mentioned, possible rookie of the year, stepped into a massive role, looks like a legitimate player from the very jump. Evan Mobley, Cleveland Cavaliers. Very excited. He's the clear chase of this first base set drop. So very, very, very excited about that. Just some metrics behind the drop. The first Series 3 drop will be $9, common set editions from 4,000 to 60,000 CC. So as we mentioned, we knew that some of these second year players, some of these veterans, they're gonna the mint runs for these Series 3 and beyond moments are gonna be pretty damn high, which is to be expected. So you're no longer gonna get the LeBrons minted at 15,000, 40,000. You're gonna get these things minted at 50, 60, 75, 100,000 and beyond, just so Top Shot can ensure that collectors, people that don't have necessarily a large bankroll, can get their hands on players that they enjoy. However, they are keeping that 3-star rookie, as we kind of talked about in the past, the Top Shot debut for these rookies minted at 4,000. So for someone like Evan Mobley, if you want to get your hands on Evan Mobley, there's only going to be 4,000 of those ever minted. The first Top Shot debut moments, Jalen Suggs, and so on and so forth. So these early on rookies, and we've talked about this in the past, there's some correlation there with the hobby, with these being the coveted moments from Top Shot, still going to be minted pretty low. So what are your thoughts on just kind of the edition size, if you will, of this Series 3 base set drop, the price, the names, any other takeaways from Top Shot's Series 3 debut?
Can't complain about the price for $9 for the base packs. That's cool. No problem, no issues there. Yeah, I'm fine. Again, I think we spoke a little about this. I'm fine with the 4,000, triple badge type stuff for the rookies. That's good. I don't have much of a comment on the print size for the other moments in this set. I'm sure there will be some cool LeBron stuff or whatever, high end names that will sell for something, but I'm not expecting those to be high value moments. You're chasing those 4,000, rookie moments in this stuff. For the most part, I'm sure there'll be some cool highlights from the beginning part of the season, end of last season, that might be worth, collecting. But, I am curious to you, actually. I want to know, do you think what's the strategy here, right? So say you get a pack, unfortunately, you don't pull your Evan Mobley card. How do you go about acquiring one? Do you try to look the second it hits the marketplace? Is that when it's going to be cheapest? Do you wait for that to settle in? Do you wait for more to be pulled out of packs? Like, what is there a strategy here? If I'm said, hey, no matter what, I'm getting an Evan Mobley by the end of this week, what should I do?
No, you've talked about this point too with physical product, right? When the release is hot is when it's time to sell. Yeah. So maybe right when the marketplace reopens after the pack drop, you can hit one of these things fairly cheap when somebody doesn't quite understand what prices are going to settle in as. But I think as people understand the desire, the demand for someone like Evan Mobley, for someone like Jalen Suggs, for someone like Davion Mitchell, you're going to see those prices rise. They're going to settle in, and then maybe 72, 96 hours or a week after the drop, you're going to see those kind of fall off as more people are listing, as more people are trying to undercut the floor, as more people are just trying to take a profit on their pack. Then you're going to see those prices start to fall. So if you get a $9 pack and you don't get the moments that you're looking for, and you want one of those Evan Mobley moments, I wouldn't buy right away. Now, you could end up being wrong there. Maybe the prices continue to soar and then they level off for somebody like Mobley. But I think you're going to see kind of this natural progression where they kind of settle into what is expected initially. And then as all those packs get opened up, as all those people list to take their profits from their pack instantly, you're going to start to see that level off. And I think you can attest to this in the physical card space too, that's kind of how that works out when you see these lower end products, especially, just looking at like the UFC, going back to the UFC, like Select and Chronicles, you see that stuff kind of hot from when the product is first released, and then it levels off as more of that product hits the market. So if you want to get your hands on Evan Mobley, I wouldn't recommend hitting the marketplace immediately after the drop. I would kind of wait to see where those prices settle in at, and then I think they'll level off a little bit as more people list.
Great advice. Makes total sense to me. And Yeah, that is my plan. I plan on getting my hands on one eventually. I don't know if it's going to be for the next week or whatever, maybe over the next month. But as those hit the marketplace, there's a place for that in my collection because I'm very, very, very excited about Evan Mobley. I mean, he's like 18, 19, so polished. I mean, he can guard the way he switches on bigs, can guard wings, and just his offensive game too. He's very smooth, and he's just got a long way to go. Cavs, frisky little team. So
they are listening to guys like you and Gallagher and Dink and, you know, other podcasts like Bill Simmons, a lot of these media personalities, if you will, if you want to throw yourself into that ring. Very excited about Evan Mobley. So I am as well, just by default. Yes, I want to get my hands on an Evan Mobley moment by hopefully the end of the weekend. We'll see where prices settle in at.
Yeah, let's end there. Gary Hartman, meaty personality. It's a good place to end. And now enjoy the Top Shot releases. Enjoy NFL. Enjoy NBA. What do we got? Anything else, Cody?
No, this was fun. I like the fact that we get a victory lap because we're in a business where we lose quite often. So when we do hit, when we have our victories, whether it be DFS, whether it be sports betting, whether it be player props, obviously we're here for sports cards, but when we hit big in sports cards, we kind of need to take a moment to pat ourselves on the back and talk through the process. I think the process on someone like RJ Barrett, I think the process on someone like Khamzat Chimaev was correct. We're going to try and continue to bring that analysis to you guys week in and week out. And with that said, we will be back next week. If you've been wanting some more kind of evergreen content, if you've been wanting some more of investment style content, if you've been wanting some more of the market has changed a lot over the last 3 to 6 months. How are you guys going about making your purchases now versus 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago? We're going to bring that to you guys. We want to talk about the decisions that we're making now when we're buying versus some of the decisions that we were making even, you know, something like 6 months ago or a year ago, because a lot has changed since then. So if you've been wanting some more of that type of content, we will be bringing it to you next week. And on that front, we will leave you until we see you again. I am Cody. He is Gary. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you later.
Congrats to the Braves.